tee us off?
Sure. Are we plugged in? Are we ready?
I believe so. Jordan has given us the thumbs up, so good to go.
Good afternoon. My name is Jason Dunn, Chairman of the Greater Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky African American Chamber of Commerce. I greet you on behalf of the Board of Directors, the President, and staff. If you have a pen, I want you to jot down the following. The diversity tourism market represents $300 billion in visitor spend. Black people represent $63 billion of that spend and projected to reach $90 billion in the coming years. Per the Nielsen study, Black people are projected to spend $1.3 trillion in consumer spending, and per all the data available, the demographic shift will make America a minority-majority country. Also write down, the music festival, which is the largest revenue-producing weekend in our region, generates $107 million in 2.5 days, 90 million of which goes to the hotels. This is all public information. Per our mission as the leading voice of Black business in this region, we wanted to understand more about the hospitality industry. Yes, in full disclosure, I'm currently furloughed from the CVB, but still am an advocate for diversity within the tourism space. I'm sure that many of you have heard that many hotels can't find Black C-suite executives. I'm sure you have heard that policymakers can't find Black investors. I'm also sure you heard that that people can't find Black developers or can't develop a comprehensive diversity strategy that includes Black restaurants within hotels or contract with Black vendors within the daily operations of hotels. So for the next 60 minutes, we would like to gain clarity on these questions and peel back the layers to get to the root causes of the stated beliefs and meet these assumptions head on. We encourage you to ask questions and really seek to understand as we clear up any misperceptions with true or false conclusions. Please welcome Eric Kearney, President of your African American Chamber of Commerce, who will introduce today's panelists. Eric.
Thank you very much, Jason. We are very excited about today's panel. We have a group of very smart and successful people, and we're honored to have each of you with us today. If you have a question or if you're having any problems, please use the chat feature or the question and answer feature that's located on the Zoom conference. Jordan Ivory, who is on the African American Chamber staff as the program manager, will be happy to assist you and work out any technical issues you may be having. We have over 100 people on this Zoom, so we've got a lot of people who are very excited. And let's start off with the founder, the chairman, the president of the National Association of Black Hotel Owners, Operators, and Developers, Andy Ingram. Andy, would you please provide some introductory comments?
Absolutely. First of all, I want to tell Jason, if there's an opportunity in Cincinnati, Warren, Ken, I've got a lot of Black developers that will be more than happy to come and look and see where the opportunities are in Cincinnati so we can build hotels. And let me just say this, I've worked with Jason over a number of years, and most recently, he has held as chairman of the National Coalition of Black Meeting Planners, Ken, the Asian American Hotel Owners, American Hotel and Lodging. We have been working to ensure that opportunities through the hospitality industry and a collaboration between all these organizations. I've just got to tell Jason one thing, all those Black meeting planners that he have, we want you to bring them to our hotels and fill them up once this pandemic is over with. But Jason, good job. Thank you for having us. And I'll let the rest of the folks introduce themselves.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you very much, Andy. We have, and I'm gonna introduce her first because she's our hometown, Kristen Kitchen. She is really a fantastic story. She started off with a, what would you call it, monogram t-shirt shop.
Yep.
She used to be one
oh,
of my
wow. You've gone way back.
Law full time, and then she skyrocketed and she started 6 Acres, and she's doing a new concept now. She's happy. All that's great about Cincinnati, Ohio. Kristen, would you please provide some introductory remarks?
Hello, my name is Kristen Kitchen. I am the owner of 6 Acres Bed and Breakfast. We've been open in Cincinnati since 2004. So almost 20 years now. We're going into our 17th winter. I just launched a new project in Miami, or actually I'm launching a new brand of hotels focused on African American history and culture. And the first hotel is the Dunn's Josephine, located in Overtown in Miami. So it is a new brand committed to sourcing all of our products with African Americans, as well as empowering the people in our community. We pledge to make sure that we have at least 10 vendors that are local vendors in every hotel that we will build from this moment going forward. They're all boutiques, all very sexy, all very hot, and interesting kind of hotels that are focused on our history. Overtown is a historically Black community in Miami, and so the hotel is focused on that.
But thank you very much, Kristen. Next, we'd like to introduce Warren Q. Fields, who is the Chief Executive Officer and President of Pinnacle. Pinnacle is a hotel group that manages, acquires, develops hotel properties. He's got at least 2 relationships in the greater Cincinnati area. So thank you very much, Warren, for being part of the panel this morning, or this afternoon.
Thanks, Eric. Appreciate the invite. It's always hard to say no to Andy when he strong arms you, but happy to be here, happy to discuss all things Cincinnati. We have an excellent working relationship in Cincinnati. It's Pyramid Hotel Group, by the way, not Pinnacle.
Oh, did I? I'm sorry. I'm at Pyramid. I'm sorry.
Right.
It's right here.
I've been called a lot of names before, so it doesn't.
You're at the Pinnacle. That's what I was thinking.
I wouldn't go that far.
That's great. I love it.
But Cincinnati is, I actually grew up in just outside of Cleveland. I spent a lot of time in Ohio. Cincinnati is a great city. We have a number of hotels that we operate in Cincinnati. We have a very large partner in Cincinnati, Western and Southern, who is committed to doing all kinds of projects. I believe that if anyone of African-American descent had a good project in Cincinnati, they would be willing to talk to them about that. So happy to be here. And, you know, we have a lot of work to do within our industry, and looking forward to the dialogue here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And last but not least, we have Ken Fern, who is the founder and managing partner of Integrated Capital, a private equity real estate firm with a focus on hospitality. Mr. Fern went to Harvard Business School with the best man at my wedding. That's a true story. So, Mr. Fern, would you please provide some introductory comments?
Unmute.
Ken.
Mute Ken.
Yeah. So first of all, thank you for putting this together, to both Jason and Eric and Jordan. We appreciate it. I think this dialogue is important. I'm just happy to be a part of a great group looking at how we can push and propel our industry forward with all of the great Black leadership that exists in this industry. Andy has been a beacon for a long time on the hotel side, really pushing to get increased participation of minorities in the space, as well as women of color in the space. And I think it often gets overlooked. And it's been particularly overlooked as we've dealt with COVID. I've been absolutely surprised at how little attention has been placed on the number of minorities in the hotel business. It's almost been as if people forgot that there are minority hotel owners. That, you know, they kind of look at the names. Most of us, unlike Kristen, don't have this great name in something called 6 Acres. You know, we've got a Marriott or a Hilton or whatever we've got as a franchisor's name on our building. And as a result, we are completely overlooked. But we are here, we have a strong base, and We want to continue to grow and thrive and continue to do things to propel increased levels of ownership and participation in this space. And there is a lot of talent in this space. You've met Warren, who is already in the Cincinnati area, but we have a tremendous amount of talent that is eager, willing, and able to participate, to look at opportunities, to do public-private joint ventures. And if anyone ever says there aren't minority developers or Black owners and developers in this space, that is not only a complete fallacy, that is an absolute lie.
So we have our first false conclusion to the first misperception, correct?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Right.
COVID's trying to kill us, but they haven't killed us yet.
Right. That's right.
Ken is also our chairman of NABHOOD and leads the effort on this COVID Care Act that we've been talking with a lot of Black elected officials, and Congresswoman like Joyce Beatty is so critical in helping us as African-American developers to get a foothold. All too often, cities don't look hard enough when they really are looking at this space. And then the perception is that they're not people that look like us that can do the job. And so if you talk to Warren and Ken and some of our other members, Norm Jenkins, Evans, Charles, the list goes on and on and on, you're going to find that not only talent, but capability. And capability is really the key. Warren is one of those guys that own hotels from Cayman Islands to Boston, and Ken, who started off as a cook making French fries at McDonald's, went to Harvard University. And so the talent is not only here, but it's a great generation of developers that have capacity. And I want to make that real clear to the folks that are listening to us, is that if there is an opportunity that you hear in your city and they say that they can't find a Black developer, just go online and put Black hotel owners in. Our website will come up, give us a call, and we'll be there the next day to look at the opportunity.
Let me kind of go into, thank you for that, Andy. Again, that's another falsehood that that we have debunked within 17 minutes of the phone call or the webinar. So we appreciate that. Let's go into the first kind of round of questions. Let's start with Ken. Can you kind of talk to what the current state of the hotel industry is as it relates to, let's talk about pre-COVID and then talk about COVID and how it's affecting each of you and frankly, the workforce of the industry as well.
All right. Well,
we'll go to Kristen.
Great. Pre-COVID, the industry was thriving. I mean, we were at all-time peaks, and candidly, I know from, I don't want to speak for others, but I was at that point where I kept wondering how much longer we could continue to move forward, because we were in an extended cycle. Typically, the hotel industry performs from peak to trough at roughly a 7-year time horizon, and we were well past a 7-year time horizon. We were in years 9 and 10, and suddenly we were, and yet it was there, but there was no structural signs of anything coming down the pipe that could derail this continued movement forward. So you kind of sat here and thought, wow, this is great. Let's keep pushing. COVID changed, and candidly, if you looked at 2020, my team and I were really focused on trying to peel back performance and say that we weren't going to grow as aggressively. Something would happen this year, but we didn't want to have this big growth. And we hit the first 2 months of the year, and we beat our budgets at every hotel in January. We beat the budgets in February, and as we headed into March, it looked like we were going to blow our first quarter numbers away. COVID hit, and by the first day of March, we were starting to see signs of weakness. By the 5th of March, we were in full-blown panic. We were watching business across the country, and our hotels are diverse. We have a hotel in Miami. We have in the Loft down there at Miami-Dade Land Mall. We have an asset, a DoubleTree in Pittsburgh. We have a Sheraton in Silver Spring, Maryland, just outside of the DC Beltway. We have a resort, 31-acre resort on the ocean in Myrtle Beach, and a Sheraton in Houston, and a Marriott, full-serve Marriott in Atlanta that we had just finished renovating. We took the facade off and completely reimagined this hotel. And at each of these hotels, the first week of March, all of our group business started canceling for the month of March. By the second week, by the Thursday, the 12th of March, we were watching our business cancel for not only March, but April and May. And that was 1 week later. By the end of March, all of our business had been canceled for March, April, May, and was heading into June. Wow. And that's what we've experienced. And then the following week, we had 2 of our hotels that were ordered to be closed by the local authorities. Myrtle Beach was closed, as was by the local authorities, as was Miami. They asked the hotels to close down after that 1 week of all the folks on the ocean there. At the beaches. So it's been a really rough ride. If you look at the state of the industry now, we've improved from our low of about 2.6 to, we were somewhere between 2 and 8% occupancy. And as you now move forward, you're seeing hotels get into the 20s and 30% occupancies. This is not a level of this does not provide a level of sustainability for any of us to survive. It's made it very difficult on our employees. It's made it difficult for us to keep our employees fully engaged and employed. And candidly, when I look, I can't speak for Warren or anyone else, but when I look at our hotels, where we have particularly urban hotels are performing the worst because there's no corporate demand coming back into the marketplace. There's no government business coming back into the marketplace. Our best performing asset is the resort, which is a drive-to market, and people are pent up and want to get out. And if they don't have to get on a plane and they can drive, and there's several great drive markets that are major urban cities that they can drive from to get to a location, those markets are performing the best. So we've been blessed that we have at least one asset that's surviving and being able to bring employees back and to cover debt service and so forth. But this is going to be, this COVID-19 is going to provide a shakeout in this industry, the likes of which I don't think we've ever seen. The financial crisis in 9 and 10 didn't do it. This is going to be something of epic proportions, at least in my opinion.
Kristen, how have you been innovative? I know Ken has kind of gave a foundation of what's happening in the industry, but I mean, you found ways to be innovative and have made it. So, well, not made it, but you're sustaining yourself.
Yeah.
Can you speak to that?
So because we're in the boutique hotel industry, and that's a little bit easier to manage, we were able to immediately pivot to a shelter to house the homeless for the Miami-Dade Homeless Trust. So the day after they ordered all the hotels closed in Miami, I went to sleep stressed out and woke up like this is not going to die, because we had actually only been open for 3.5 months before the pandemic dropped on us. So much like Ken, by the middle of March, it was going south pretty quick. Miami has the jazz festival that goes on in March, and we were 100% occupied. And by the day of the first, by that Friday, I think we had 2 or 3 guests who just said they were coming anyway. So we were able to pivot the very next day. Actually, the same night, I called the trust, and they brought 3 people that night, and then their CEO was able to come the following day, and we're able to garner a strong contract in order to push ourselves through it. So I was able to hang on to all of my employees, even hire new employees in the community, and be able to continue to use my vendors and to support all of the restaurants in the neighborhood. So it's been a blessing for us to have been able to come up with a concept quickly.
Warren, in your perspective from your portfolio of hotels, similar to Ken, do you find it that the drive-in regional type of business is something that will help sustain or bring back the market, and also do you believe that diversity markets will help because we have to meet sustain the market as well?
Well, there's a couple questions in there. So first of all, like Ken in our portfolio, we go from basically Maine down to the Caribbean. We go as far west as Hawaii, and we have stuff. We have a large presence in Western Europe. So, and we're primarily a management company. So, in the drive-to markets, let's focus on the U.S. and the drive-to markets in the U.S. that are leisure destinations. Business has been good. Not enough to sustain any of the hotels, but it's enough to bring employees back. It's enough to, have people at the hotels. It's enough to start paying some bills again. The question will be, as Ken alluded to, what happens after the summer season? What happens in the fall when sort of the summertime is over, and will there be corporate business that comes back? I'm a little nervous today because when you look at some of the leisure destinations and the southern states, they're having a resurgence of cases, which has put a damper on some of that travel. So, in my view, unless there is a medical solution that is going to come quickly, I think we have an issue about getting people to travel again. I also believe that with so many people unemployed, not only do we need a medical solution, there's an economic issue that is going to take a long time to recover. So, the watchword in my organization is sort of, we have to manage liquidity. We have to try and fight through this. Similar to what Ken said, unfortunately, we furloughed a number of people at our hotels, particularly the urban locations. At the corporate team, including myself, we had pay reductions, we had furloughs. We created incentives for people to retire early. So this is not anything that I've ever seen before, and I've been in the business 30 years, like Ken. I started working the fryer layer at a Wendy's, not a McDonald's. I think the fries are better at Wendy's than they are at McDonald's, so that's why I went there. But this is clearly something that we, as an industry and as a people, need to band together to make sure that we can do the best to serve not only the communities that we're in, but also each other.
Hey, Warren, I couldn't go to Wendy's. They wouldn't come to Compton when I was growing up. They didn't want any part of South Central. So my only choice was McDonald's.
Right.
Can I jump in here and talk a little bit about how did you get your start? There's some people who are on who want to maybe get in the industry. So can you give some advice about how you got started, what you would recommend to someone right now if they wanted to get in the industry? So share some of your stories if you would. Okay, don't be shy. Warren, you want to
go?
Sure, I'm happy to go. Look, I think that there's a couple things. One, longevity in the business helps a lot. Two, I will tell you that I was not successful in every job that I was given in my career. Case in point, I was a trainer at a hotel where I was I had a dual position. I was a restaurant manager and I ran training at the hotel. In my view, I absolutely failed at being the trainer. Okay. However, I did the best I could and kept fighting through it. So, and then the other thing that I also believe though is as you're going through your career, you know, sometimes you come to a fork in a road, and the two forks, not either one of those are a bad one. Some of them are just a better choice than the other choice, right? And you have to be able to see the better choice versus sort of, you know, the choice that is probably maybe in the short term going to get you either the most money or the quickest promotion or whatever. And then also, you know, mentoring doesn't happen that doesn't happen, you know, by happenstance. To find mentors, you know, you kind of have to work the relationship. You know, you have to demonstrate to whoever's going to mentor you that you're committed and that you really want to work and you want to do all the things. So I will also tell you that I was a reluctant CEO, quite frankly. My two partners retired, and
Why is that?
I was very happy in the job that I had. I had a lot of autonomy. I was basically at some level running the company anyway, but I didn't have the title. So it's always nice to not necessarily be the CEO because you can defer to somebody else, right? But, you know, quite frankly, you know, I really like the job. It's mentally stimulating, which to me, from a personal perspective, is one of the things that I value the most. How can I become mentally stimulated in what I'm doing? It's different than the prior jobs I've had within the organization. So, look, I will admit I have been fortunate. I've been surrounded by really good people. I have had really good people on my team. But as I said, I have not been successful in everything. Quite frankly, I'm sure I'm going to fail at something today. And I will not let that get me discouraged. I will just continue to move on and try and do better tomorrow.
Right. Well said, Warren.
Warren, does that mean that you weren't a good hockey player?
I was not a good hockey player.
That's okay.
I was not.
That's an officer, your previous job.
Yes.
So look, it's important for people to understand that failure is one of the great life lessons that you can ever have, right? We talk about it all the time, but, or at least we think, at least I think about it. I don't know that we talk about failure too often. I think we have to get comfortable speaking of failure. And candidly, in this environment, there's going to be a lot of failure. But out of failure comes opportunity. And for people looking to get into the business now, there's going to be no greater opportunity than right now, because there will be a lot of existing assets that won't survive with their current ownership. Lenders are going to be taking back a lot of assets. We've already seen some pretty big portfolios go back to the lenders, and we're only 4 months into it. But the program put forth by the government, the PPP program, if you realize, it's shocking, but only 10% of those funds ended up in the hands of the hospitality space. And as significant as tourism is to the U.S. GDP, again, only 10% ended up in the hospitality space. And the funds that for that group of 10% that were even fortunate enough to obtain it, it doesn't carry you far enough. So there will be a lot of opportunities. I fully expect that I'm going to experience failure coming out of this. And, you know, it's not something I've experienced a ton of, but I expect to be one of those people who will fail. But as Andy pointed out, I'm a fighter. I won't go down without a fight. I'll go down kicking and screaming. And I will be thinking about my pivot and what my pivot is going to be, which is what I've been doing for quite some time. In fact, if I'm being completely candid, I've been thinking of a pivot out of the current space and the way I've been playing in this space for about 2 years now, and thinking along the lines of creating my own hotel company. And now that when I'm not putting fires out on an hourly basis at my existing assets, I'm spending time really focused on, you know, what's this new hotel company going to look like? and what's this brand going to look like? And how do I drive this brand? How do I grow it? Where's the first opportunity? And I'm going to spend my time really thinking about, well, okay, coming out of 2020, as I just said, assets are going to fail. There will be opportunities. Where can I pick up an existing asset that will create my opportunity to put my own brand on something and to move forward with my first opportunity? And to people looking, having said that, one of the things I will say, and it may sound trite, but one of the things I'm going to say to everyone who's listening is that the biggest challenge that minority businesses ever have is having enough funding. Be preposterous. When you go to think, if you want to get into this business, make sure that you are well capitalized. I don't think any of us ever, I don't think you could have been well capitalized enough to survive this storm. Most of us, are fiscally conservative, and we manage our finances to the point of, how do we build reserves and so forth, and you have extra cash and you want to call on capital. In a situation like this, even if you can call on capital, it doesn't mean that capital is going to come. But what you have to do is make sure that you have the ability to try. And I would encourage anyone looking to get into the hotel business to really put ironclad claws in to being able to call on capital and claw people back who don't contribute, so that there's some punitive impacts, because you have to put yourself in a position for survival. And this is a capital intensive business. It's human capital, financial capital. It is the most capital intensive business I think I could ever imagine, other than airlines, right? And I think it's going to get worse before it gets better.
I agree, but I think, Ken, one of the things that we've done at the National Coalition of Black Hotel Owners is having this camaraderie where we can share our stories, look at opportunities, and when we do have something that may come up, to see how we can work collectively as a team. For us, the critical element for most people entering this business is simply coming together, 1, 2, 3, or 4 people, putting their resources together and looking at opportunities. The critical element, as Ken and I had worked all week, last couple of months, I guess you can say, where we talked to elected officials, both white and black, and particularly elected officials that have opportunities, that understand our plight. We spent a couple of weeks ago with Congressman Meeks, yesterday with Congressman, or day before with Congressman Van Johnson in Texas, and yesterday, Congressman, the Congressman in Florida, and working collectively. Al Lawson, thank you, Ken. Working collectively together is—
I'm here to make you look good, Andy.
Thank you very much, Ken. I need that help. Working together is to see how we can all not only get through this storm, but find additional people. But one of the critical elements is that the industry also has to be, the hotel industry, the brands, the financial companies, the management companies, all have to be and understand this business of diversity. Ken made an interesting point, and Kristen is focused on a market that celebrates our culture and history, but more importantly, African Americans that spend that $60 billion annually on travel. What happens if they decide not to travel 1 year with the convention? What happens if they decide to take their conventions to all Black-owned hotels? At NABHOOD, when we looked at what those opportunities are, and we looked at the industry and found that 1 in every 65 executive is Black, we decided to commission a study by the folks at Cornell and University of Rhode Island, and to look and see how can we create a roadmap. So while the industry is dark and dreary, when Jason, as the chairman of the National Coalition of Black Meeting Planners, and I talked about this many nights, what can we do to make the industry accountable, but more importantly, show the industry that there is a lot of Black talent and opportunity. And so when we look at
And let me just say, so you did just prove another falsehood, correct? That there is black talent in the industry, correct? I just want to make sure I heard you say that.
There's a
Listen,
lot of it.
Jason, that's clear. And I'm embarrassed as the president and CEO of NAPA that we haven't done a better job. And quite frankly, if I look at Miami, Fort Lauderdale, and West Palm Beach, in that huge market where there's over 1,000 hotels, we have 5 black general managers. That's astonishing. But the good thing is that as we talk to hotel companies and CEOs and having this unfortunate issue that brought the consciousness of Black Lives Matter at the forefront, people are beginning to realize that, hey, let's wake up and let's right-side this industry. And so our study, that roadmap is to show how we're going to get through this in terms of getting more diverse employees while we battle on the COVID issue. But one company already, a national brand, when we talked to them 2 weeks ago, said, I don't have a black person on my board. I am going to put a black person on my board. I'm tying in bonuses with diversity commitment. And just a couple of days later, that's just announced an African-American woman that had their global diversity effort. So it is a tough industry, as Warren alluded to, but it's also the second, the largest industry in the United States that contributed to GDP. We've got to get back to travel. We've got to get past COVID. We've got to get back to where people would begin so that we can employ people, the vendors. You know, as a hotel owner, one of the most critical issue you would have is seeing people that work for you having to lay them off, saying that you can't pay them. And then the other subset of that, the vendors that come in every night and do a great job at providing us with goods and services, we can't use them anymore because guess what? We don't have anybody to take our hotel rooms every night. And so for us is how do we get through this? What is the next step? And, you know, Chris Nassetta said something interesting. When he rebuilds Hilton, he's going to make sure that a commitment to diversity is critical. So when I walk into a hotel, whether it's black owned or black managed, whether it's white owned or Indian owned, I want the same commitment there. That is, I want people of color to have an opportunity. And if they have a problem finding talent, we've developed an HR prototype where we're going to create the pipeline. You know, Warren Fields said something interesting the other day. He said, Andy, let's track people when they graduate so we can find that talent and put them into hotels when an opportunity comes up. And that's why we came up with the NAPOD rule. The NAPOD rule is real simple. For every executive position that becomes available, I want the industry to commit in interviewing at least one African-American. One African-American, one person.
Andy thinks Andy's become Andy Rooney.
Yeah, the Rooney.
We started from the Rooney rule, but hey,
Yeah, definitely.
It's a really good organization, that Steelers organization. So
the only thing I would add to this is that, you know, I think it's vital to stay on point about minorities, but we also need to talk about women. And, you know, I've been in this business. Warren said, you know, that we've been in it for 30 years. I don't feel that old, but, you know, I'm close to 30 years in this industry now. And I remember when I first got into it, I never saw anyone who looked like me. And if I saw a woman on an executive team, she was always the HR director, never the GM, never the controller, never director of sales, always HR. And if I saw someone who looked like me, period, it was in housekeeping. And as the years have gone on, you can't even find us in housekeeping and engineering now. So the industry has really pivoted away from us. So I think it's a critical importance that we continue to keep the pressure on and prove that this is a great place for young talent to go, that it can be recognized and rewarded and lead to a fulfilling career. And, you know, the big brands and everyone else will be, Andy, you were down that path, so I'll come back to it, but they play a vital role in how they recruit and retain talent. And if you look at it, you know, candidly, if you look at some of the Instagram and troll the social media for the big brands, you know, there was a lot of negative feedback when people looked at the executive committees and executive teams. Forget the boards, just look at the executive teams of these brands. There is no one on those the C-suite teams that look like us, like anyone on this webinar right now.
And I can share one piece of statistics with you. At the director level of above, Black people hold a mere 1.5% positions, and that's broken up. Black men hold 1%, and Black women 0.5% in our industry. That's what we've got to change.
Yeah. Okay, speaking of women, we've got a woman on the panel. Kristen, I wonder if you could talk a little bit about what makes a good market to invest in. Why did you start in Cincinnati and then move your enterprise to Florida? What goes into that decision, and what makes a good market to invest in, if you could?
Well, when I decided to launch a new brand, there were, you know, the #1 city and #2 city are New York or Miami, and that fluctuates back and forth. And that was pretty simple. I'm Black and I didn't want to be in sub-zero temperatures. So we chose Miami. I really do appreciate the conversation about women and our lack of inclusion in the hospitality industry. But I also want to really stick the point that this is why it's important for us to build our own. I think that choosing to be in the urban communities, choosing to do something a little bit different as it relates to how we build a brand or how we build our hotels, when we focus on our communities, when we focus on sourcing our vendors from within exclusively and being unabashedly, you know, shameless about our decisions to empower all of the incredible vendors and the incredible talent that's right here in the marketplace, from toilet paper to soaps, shampoos, body butters, water companies, linens, everything that we need can be sourced from African-American vendors. And I think the difference for me is that, you know, as a female, I'm thinking about the children of these vendors and how does it look when they're able to see their parents in positions where they're being successful, even if it's a small, tiny vendor. You know, my little one is 8. I made her business cards when she was 3. She completely, you know, thinks she is a co-owner, and she is. But that's a very, very important component that I think that as a female CEO, that I want to ensure that not just my staff, but the vendors that we support can see themselves in our brand.
Okay. Can you
preach?
Yeah, Warren and Kim, can you describe what makes a good market to invest in, or what you see as being attributes of a particular market that are attractive?
Kenny, would you like to start, or you want me to?
Go for it.
Well, my organization, we typically have institutional investors, and the institutional investors want to be in sort of more major markets, fly to, not necessarily drive to markets. But when I think about a hotel market that I think is a good market, I think of, you know, multiple legs to the demand stool, sort of group component, leisure component, academic component. You know, state capitals are pretty good because they're somewhat recession proof. This was all pre-COVID, right? So
Right.
Post-COVID, I'm not really sure what's going to happen until people start traveling again. But pre-COVID, you know, we just looked for solid demand, not necessarily one big horse for demand. The more diversified the demand picture is, better. If you're sort of near, you know, good transportation networks, that's good. But you know, when you think about where I want to own or where I want to build a hotel, there's got to be some sort of underlying thesis of sustainability, a good employee base, as well as, you know, as well as the way I think about it. If I put an operating team in that market, are they going to be able to succeed? If they can't succeed in that market, Lord knows the amount of time and effort that goes into a hotel that underperforms. It's completely disproportional to a hotel that is performing versus the ones that don't perform. So we spend a lot of time trying to make sure whenever we take over a hotel or look to buy or build, that there is a very, very strong and diverse demand picture. I think you're on mute, Eric.
Oh, thanks. Ken, did you want to jump in?
Sure. I think Warren hit everything on the head. We've looked almost exactly the same, under the same parameters and metrics. The only thing I would add is that we didn't discuss on that is we're also always looking at what's happening with supply, because supply is a killer. And right now, you know, markets like New York are suffering from excess supply, as is, you know, candidly, so is Florida. Miami's getting hit by excess supply. You know, I loved what Kirsten said about building something for our own, because, you know, when you look at the franchise model, the franchisors get their money off the top before we've made $1. So for me, I'm really starting to think about how important that is to be able to you know, it's kind of like FUBU, for us, by us, and really trying to create that opportunity that runs all the way through the cycle. So through the chain, you know, from vendors, suppliers, all the way through and right down to the guests, and really highlight what we can do as a group. So I think there's going to be opportunities. I think sometimes the opportunities present themselves to you, though, right? Aside from just the supply, the other things we talked about. Sometimes you end up in a situation where something presents itself, and what you have to do is decide, is this a viable economic opportunity? You know, and it's nice when you have a choice to decide, like Kristen did. Do I want to go to New York, or do I want to go to Miami, or where do I want to go?
Well,
I
I do think that having choosing my brand is small, intimate hotels. So there's a little bit of a difference there. These guys have to do big feasibility studies, and it all has to make a lot of sense. Whereas, you know, for us, it's more attached to the algorithms that are behind Expedia. So what makes people choose to stay at the Duns Josephine? If you type in jazz, if you type in African American, if you type in, you know, inner city, if you type in any kind of connection, then we're going to pop up first. And I think that one of the other major things for Miami is we cannot discount the international market. That brings in a tremendous amount of volume as it relates to our history and our culture and our energy. I mean, we just had, you know, even though we were only open for a few months, we had concerts every weekend, and, you know, we're not the predominance of people that are there, but everybody is thoroughly enjoying what we bring to the table. So I really think our opportunity to focus on us and really bring it not just to America, but to the world stage is where we should be focused right now.
Yeah.
Eric, you mentioned, I just want to add to what Ken and Warren said, as well as Kristen, what makes a great market. Listen, public-private partnerships are critical.
Yes, absolutely.
I know guys in Cincinnati have a development I believe is being looked at by the port. I mean, all we ask is for people to give us an opportunity to get those sort of stuff. Kristen is very familiar with public-private partnership. Both Warren and Ken and I are very familiar with it. But, you know, one of the big things that we talk about is Norm Jenkins in DC, where the city, the District of Columbia made a commitment to have an African-American group in the deal. And that set the stage for an entry of a capable developer that not only exceeded all the goals that the city had laid down for the result of that public-private partnership, just as Kristen has done in hiring people from their community. But it made everybody look good in terms of bringing and employing and developing a sense of pride of people right in the community because they know it. The other thing that
and that's a great point, Andy. We did the same thing before Norm left Marriott, when Prince George's National Harbor, when Prince George's County they muscled it through that development for it to go off had to have a hotel that featured an African American ownership group, and Norm put us in there as the developer, and we executed it exactly to the T. We hired locally. We did an extensive and exhaustive search. We found an incredibly talented general manager who was a Black woman and who set it on fire and is setting the industry on fire, who I'm still very close with today, even though we sold it to RLJ. And those getting the municipalities and cities to recognize the importance of this is what also helps folks like us continue to extend our personal brand and to show what we can do. And it helps all of us. Every time someone else of color is successful at doing this, and we have to be successful and we have to do it the right way, it creates more opportunity and broadens the game. This should become the norm, not the exception.
I agree, Ken. And the other good example is what Norm did with the Courtyard and the Residence Inn. I mean, think about it. We're in the hotel space and we brought in an African-American owned company ran by Warren Thompson of Thompson Hospitality. And today, the new concepts of restaurants, most hotel owners would rather have the restaurant third party out, but we have African-American restaurateurs that understand the business, and not only with standalone restaurants, but putting restaurants in the hotels. And so when we look at the hospitality space, we see tremendous amount of opportunities. We see public-private partnership, we see great markets, we see demand from international markets coming in, but more importantly, we look at how we can be impactful in the community, how we can take an area like where Kristen is in Overtown. I mean, when you look at Overtown, it was the hub of Black activity in Miami. And so when you look at New Orleans, and I'm sure you have areas, Jason talked about the music festival that comes to the city. But here's the important thing that Jason does when he brings something like that in. It helps tourism in general, but it specifically helps African-American owned businesses and communities.
Right, vendor and supply.
That we've typically been left out.
Yes, Andy, let me interrupt you. Let's jump into the Q&A section of today. I am going to lead off with our board chairman, Jason Dunn. I know he has a question that is a strong follow-up to what we're just talking about. Go ahead, Jason.
You're on mute.
Yeah, I got it. to Andy, Warren, and Ken, Kristen. So let me ask you a question. So, we are there any projects or examples where Black vendors are a part of the hotel infrastructure? For example, Black restaurants within a hotel. Are there Black companies that do linen, Black companies that make uniforms? I mean, what is there an example? Because I think, as Andy stated, and each of you know, the money that we spend, there should be representation within the infrastructure and operations. And most of the time, some of the private firms, Warren, maybe to you, that manage some of these companies, they kind of hide under the diversity numbers of the brands versus what they actually control. So is there something that, an example you can talk about, or what can we do to make sure our members are get the opportunity to kind of bid on some of these contracts?
I'll be real brief. Let me just be real brief. Metro Laundry, an African-American laundry company in DC, cleans laundries and linens for a lot of hotels. African-American group that came to us. Herschel Walker has a chicken company that came to Napa. We got him involved with the hotels and with the brands. Warren, I mentioned Warren Thompson a minute ago. the delegate restaurant during the CBC, you could not get a seat at the bar. As a matter of fact, the owner could not get a seat. That was Norm Jenkins in the restaurant. It was just filled with people. So there's a lot of opportunities for vendoring. And we just had at our last conference, an NBA star that went out and bought a champagne. And Isaiah Thomas came to us, and we're looking to take a product like him or his product and get it into the industry. When you think about the hotel industry, if you look around any room, everything in that hotel has to be bought by somebody, from somebody. Our goal at NAPA is to ensure that it can be bought from an African-American vendor. And we work hard to make that happen. And I'm sure both Warren and Ken and Kristen can add to that. You know, Kristen I think you still have a collection of black wines at your hotels.
Yes, and there's also a toilet paper company called Freedom Paper Company that's out of DC. That's a black, black gentleman. I think it's about being deliberate. I'm, an independent, so I have the ability to be deliberate. The brands don't always have that. There's a bidding process that goes with that that's a little bit more difficult. So, Andy, you can speak about the bidding process, perhaps, so that the people that are asking questions can understand that a little bit better.
I think what I didn't mean to interrupt you, Kristen, but I think Andy has done an excellent job of strong arming.
Yes, he has.
National sort of vendor relationships. The one that comes to mind that we use is a company called Avendra. And I would encourage any minority vendor to become part of Avendra, and you would not believe the amount. Now it's a difficult process. I know it's difficult to get approved by them, but once you get approved, you would not believe the access to the industry that you have. And Andy has done a really good job of strong arming the CEO of Avendra to help get minorities involved in that. That to me,
candidly, Wolfstrom, I've spent a lot of time with Wolfstrom, and they really, really want minority vendors. They are hot on the pursuit, trying to identify and bring more into the fold every time they put a bid out. And one of the challenges they've had, candidly, over the last 5 years is every time they get a new vendor in, someone comes in that's not minority owned and buys it up. So right now, the biggest standing minority vendor within Avendra is Herschel Walker's Chicken Company.
Yeah.
And Ken, you're absolutely right. But to Jason's point, I could not, when I started making calls to Avendra, I could not even get a phone call. And when I looked around and found out that Warren was doing business with Avendra, I made a phone call to Warren. Warren made one phone call to the CEO. And every year, when I'm in Phoenix at a conference, that CEO and I have dinner together to see what else we can do. And they've assigned a specific individual. But on the bidding process, when Herschel Walker came to our conference and said, here's what I do, we then said, let's find a space for you to participate. And not only that he chicken to them, but he also had
But it sounds like we need to be focused on Freedom toilet paper.
Yes, Freedom Paper.
We need to get them in the mix as soon as possible.
I will hop on that with Kristen. I'm not familiar with them, but any opportunity to infuse minority vendors in this industry, our commitment, as you know, Chairman, both Warren and Ken, members of our board, we have three things that we do, only three. Increase the numbers of African Americans owning hotels, increase the numbers of executive level employment, and increase the numbers of minority vendors doing business. And I tell Jason and Eric, if you have a question, whether they're hiding behind the brands, listen, they've not done a great job at diversity. What we're hoping and what the study would do at Cornell, that they would do a better job. And a lot of them have made that commitment. But the consumer also has a responsibility. If you say to somebody, I'm not going to bring my money to your firm because it's not reflective of our community or what America looks like, I can almost assure you, like any business person, they will go ahead and make that change. And if I can just talk about Miami for one quick moment, when H.T. Smith and Marilyn Holyfield called for a boycott of tourism after the city lost about $50 million, they made a commitment to create a scholarship for young Black kids at FIU. They also made a commitment to put a fund together and to contribute towards the first Black-owned hotel in Miami Beach, which was owned by Donahue People, subsequently sold, and today is owned by Park Hotels and Resort, that the chairman, the president, is an African-American. And so it's full circle.
Okay, Andy, I'm going to jump in here real quick. We've got a number of questions in the Q&A, and so I want to just send them out rapid fire so we can make sure that people have an interactive experience. So one thing is, how do people find out how to support Black-owned hotels for planning travel, events, and meetings?
Great question. Go to NABHOOD, NABHOOD.com, and we have a directory there. You'll be able to find all our African-American owned hotels. And by the end of the year, you'll also be able to go that and book a hotel, finding to make sure that's Black owned. So that's easy.
Perfect. Now, that was by Catherine Gardet. Okay, Stephen Wilkinson asked, have you reached out to the administration about providing support for the hotel industry? I believe that was a question that Ken had asked or made reference to earlier.
The answer is yes. We've been talking with the administration, with Treasury, with MBDE, with congressional members, all looking at the CARES Act, all getting extension of PPP, all trying to figure out, and we've done this in conjunction with Jason's group, with the Asian American Hotel Owners, with the American Hotel and Lodging Association. So yes, we're vigilantly, we're spending a lot of time being vigilant to try to get that to be active.
Ken,
Okay.
Ken and Andy
Go
have
ahead.
spent countless hours on that topic.
Say again, I'm sorry?
Ken and Andy have spent countless hours on that topic.
Thank you, Warren.
Yes, more than
they-
you can imagine. The only challenge I would say is I think the administration, we haven't had as much success, Andy, just being candid. We've really gotten the great attention from members of the House and the Senate, but I think we would take any and all support to help push on the Treasury Department, because Treasury is really leading this charge. And so any and all support, if someone's got a recommendation of someone we can reach out to help push this cause at Treasury, please pass it along, because Andy and I are pushing diligently on a daily basis on it, but Treasury's been our hardest nut. Andy, do you disagree?
I agree with you 100%, Ken. Any help would be appreciated.
Okay. LaShonda wants to know, is it possible to have a national movement specifically focused on minority ownership?
Absolutely. And we do have that movement. We do a number of workshops every year. We have a national conference, a number of brands, including Hilton, Marriott. We do workshops. That's not enough. We need to do more. But our focus is on ownership, because just as Warren said, when I couldn't get into a company that is doing billions of dollars worth of business, having an owner doing business and saying you've got to make sure you're responsive helped greatly. So the answer is yes.
Okay. Phil Denning, who used to be the economic director for the city of Cincinnati, asked, how did you start with one hotel and move on to others? Discuss the proportion of assets you own versus manage.
But let me take it from a 30,000 feet level. It's very simple. We had to find the right people. We had to find in the beginning the right companies that had an interest with folks that were in those firms. So if you're looking for folks, you've seen a couple here, Norm, you've seen Ken. And so what we all decided to do.
Norm's not here, by the way. You've seen Warren and Ken.
Warren and Ken.
Warren and Ken, I'm sorry about that. But we decided to look at an opportunity, and one of the greatest opportunities that happened at Hilton when you had Bob Johnson on the board, and I believe Warren was at Promise Hotels then. Hilton bought those hotels, had to get rid of them. I remember having a discussion, and everybody knew that Bob was rich and was in a good position to buy any number of hotels. And so collectively finding individuals that are going in the same direction, that have the wherewithal by putting our resources together. And when you hear about each one of our companies, you'll find that they've all been built by great partnerships and working with some of the brands. Yes, some of the brands have lost the steam from the beginning. We hope we can reconnect that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I jump in here real quick?
Yeah,
Because
of course.
I'm not sure if that really answered it. I'll give you my example of how I got started, because I think it'll hit to the point. I was working for a firm that we were out running around buying hotels and building hotels across the country and outside of the U.S. And I really decided I wanted to get into
Four Seasons, like the Four Seasons and St. Kitts.
We had the Four Seasons Nevis, we had Four Seasons, the flagship in Toronto. This is my old firm, and we were the largest third-party owner of Four Seasons hotels in North America. I decided I wanted to do something and be a Black-owned hotel company. And as I started reaching out and studying the various brands, Hilton had a couple of really high-level Black executives. I reached out to them, and Bob was on the board at the time, and he had just done his deal where I think he purchased 7 assets from Hilton to do RLJ. And Hilton said, we want to do something with you. Let's figure out of the assets we own, what would make sense. And I bought 2 assets, ended up purchasing 2 assets directly from Hilton. That's how I got started. Once I purchased the 2 assets from Hilton, I received a phone call from Marriott saying, well, that's great that you did something with them. We're here, you should be doing stuff with us. And I said, that would be great. I just didn't have a relationship there. Hilton was in my backyard because they were headquartered in Beverly Hills at the time, and I'm in Los Angeles. I got a phone call on a Thursday morning, about 2 weeks after that initial phone call, saying we're a part owner in a hotel that we're going to take to market. In fact, we just got an offer. Would you look at it? And I said, I'll get on. If my wife says it's okay, I'll jump on a red eye and I'll be at the asset tomorrow morning. My wife said okay. I took a red eye. I flew, looked at the asset. While I was doing that, I had our team back here in LA doing the underwriting. I had an offer on the table that night when I landed. As soon as I landed and reviewed it with the team, we sent it back. Marriott couldn't believe that we responded so quickly, and that led, I think I did 10 straight deals after that with Marriott. I've done a bunch with Marriott and Hilton, but it was one by one by one. And every time I got ready to do it, I'd take any proceeds I might have been able to pull from the other assets and put it into the next one. I'd get my hat, and each time I'd have to get a little bit bigger hat and pass it around to everybody I knew and ask for some money and who wanted to participate. And that's how I did it. And that's kind of the nature of being an entrepreneur, and developing incredibly strong relationships with the lending community that has a familiarity with hotel lending.
And Ken, one of your partners in that deal in National Harbor, I met him at a golf tournament in Richmond, Virginia. He was a car dealer, talked to him about getting into the hotel business, introduced him to Marriott, and then circle, he became a partner with Ken in that hotel. Warren has an interesting story though, because Warren was almost out of the business after the sale of Promise. Warren, you want to talk a little bit about that?
Warren, you're on mute. Warren, your microphone. Yeah, there you go.
I said I didn't want to bore the audience here, but so I worked for a big hotel company for a long time. Company actually got sold to Hilton. I had the opportunity to stay. I was late 30s and knew that if I didn't take the chance now, I probably would never take the chance. So I left, didn't really, let's see, I left, got married, had a kid, started a company, all in the same year. That was 1999. And the first hotel that I got involved in, I built 3 hotels ground up, bought a Ramada, again, borrowed the money, passed the hat around. The only reason I was able to do that is because I'd been in the business a long time and had a little bit of a track record. So that, again, we talked about longevity early on. Longevity in a business, I think, helps you because you're able to see ups and downs and you're able to see opportunities. And, you know, people believe that I would be able to get it done. And, you know, like Ken, I would die trying. And particularly when you raise money from friends and family, you don't want to lose that money for those people.
Okay, we've got to have closing remarks now. This has really been fantastic. I wish we could go on for another 90 minutes, but everybody's got commitments. Just so you know, we had over 125 people on this Zoom, so you guys hit it out of the ballpark as we all knew that you would. So Ken, if you would please, you know, provide us with some closing remarks, and then after Ken, we'll go to Kristen and Warren, and then Andy and Jason.
Eric, thank you. Well, first of all, thanks again for everyone who organized this and creating it, and thanks for everyone who participated on it, as well as those who signed in for it. We are truly at a unique time in the industry, and again, the sledding right now is tough, but there will be opportunities. So I would encourage everyone who has an interest to pursue and to monitor and reach out to Andy and the NABHOOD team and any of us on this call, on this webinar, if you have an interest. The other piece is that, you know, I think we're at a unique inflection point. And one thing I will assure you that Andy and I will do on behalf of NABHOOD and the industry is we will keep the focus on the need for continued push around diversity in this industry. Andy and I will not be letting up on that in any way, shape, or form. We're bringing back report cards and being able to show who is leading by example, not by words. And we want to see more people who look like us participating in this industry. It is a vital part of our GDP and the economic success of our country. And by all means, we need to participate in it. And that includes not only at the hotel ownership level, but the employee level at hotels, as well as at the brands, but also looking now at how we get more vendors into this. This was really a neat conversation. And again, the more you have these conversations, the more you learn. I've been doing this for a long time. I'd never heard of Freedom toilet paper. So we need to continue these dialogues and continue to seek and find opportunities to bring more people along throughout this industry, throughout the chain, the value chain.
Okay, Kristen, you're next.
Well, I want to say thank you as well to my hometown boys for putting this all together. Thank you very much. Thanks for including me in on it. I'm really just, you know, looking forward to the opportunity to continue to grow the brand and come back to Cincinnati and perhaps build a little boutique, an additional hotel there. I think now is our time as African Americans to put the focus on us and to leverage that to grow and expand and to, you know, take this catastrophic event that's going to give us the opportunity to really focus on us. So I'm just happy to be a part of it. Thank you all.
Yeah, and congratulations on your success. It's really great to have seen you go. I remember your little store, and I won't bore everybody with that. Okay, Warren.
Well, thank you. As I mentioned, Cincinnati is a big part of the portfolio of the hotels that we have. We recently opened the Lytle Park Hotel and Autograph in downtown Cincinnati. We operate a Residence Inn in downtown Cincinnati. We operate an AC on the Banks in downtown Cincinnati, and we have hotels all throughout the suburbs of Cincinnati. We as an organization need to do a better job of finding people of color and women, throughout our entire organization, not just at the hotel level, but throughout the corporate level as well. We are participating with Andy and NABHood in trying to make sure that the goals that are set across, for the industry, we're going to try and meet those or exceed those within our own organization. I also believe that we as African Americans need to take care of our own. I think that, sometimes we need to look in the mirror and say to ourselves, is there something that we could do to help ourselves? Is there something that we can do better? And not always look for handouts. We need to sort of take care of our own. And if we do that, I think we'll lift up the entire community. So I appreciate being part of the discussion, and I look forward to seeing you all soon in person. We all start again.
Also, Andy, do you want to speak about the NABHood conference? You said that it got pushed back a little bit to October this year.
Oh. So this year, thank you. First of all, Jason and Eric and Jordan, great job. Thank you for having us, and great conversation. We appreciate the opportunity. And I know one of the issues that as we look at the land space, cities really have to be genuine when they want us in a public-private partnership. I remember that Ken and I had looked at the Millennium. Jason, I think, is that still in play in Cincinnati, Jason?
Is the hotel still, the hotel was closed, but there's discussion with the port on the next steps. Yeah.
Well, Ken had a discussion with them and it went dead. I hope they would come back and visit with us. Those are the sort of opportunities that we like to look at. At our summit this year, because of what's happening in Miami, we were scheduled to be in June. We're going to go virtual this year, August the 19th to the 21st. And we're going to have a real great program where a lot of these subjects will be talked about, particularly diversity and where the market is going. And obviously, you can't talk about our industry without talking about the current situation. But more important to us, we have a student program. And Warren doesn't say a lot, but every year, Warren has been one of the top sponsors of that student program. And I want to personally thank him for that, because the young people and talent that we're developing are the next Kristen, the next Ken, the next Jason. And so we made that commitment a long time ago. The workshops that we do to help to have people learn about and meet folks like Ken and Warren and some of the other folks that we have in our industry, so that there is an opportunity at every level of this business to get involved. If you don't want to be in the hotel business, maybe you want a job and have a great background and educational background to get there. Maybe you want to sell toilet paper. Maybe you want to sell paint. And so this is, in my opinion, not only a great industry, is one that we're committed to do better. We're committed to make sure that when you walk into a hotel, there's great representation of color. There's great opportunities for women. There's great opportunity for a young kid that goes to an HBCU school or a Cornell University that Warren attended, and have the same opportunity to excel in this business. So our partnership with the National Coalition of Black Meeting Planners, with the Multicultural Food Service Net Alliance, with the NAACP, has been one where we have a committed, shared goal. And that is to create more opportunities for African Americans, while at the same time we build wealth in our community. So Jason, again, personally, thank you. Great job as chairman of the coalition. I've watched you as a friend grow through that industry. And I'm just happy to be part of this discussion and how we can all work together to ensure a better industry and one that creates opportunity for all of us, particularly people of color. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andy, and thank you so much helping us coordinate all of this and doing all this. It's really been fantastic working with you. Okay, Jason.
Actually, with that note, let me just say thank you to my team. They did a lot of the work. I don't want to take all the credit, but they did a lot of the work, and I want to just thank them, the team that I have that have done this. And Ken talks Amato all the time, or PJ, so I want to thank them and give them the recognition.
Thank
Very
you.
good. Jason Edward Dunn.
So let me close with this. We know that the assumption of Black employees not having Black employees is false. We have heard that there are Black investors, so that assumption is false. We know that there are Black owners, that assumption is false. We know that there are Black vendors or examples of Black vendors in hotels, restaurants, et cetera, toilet paper, linen, et cetera. So that assumption is false. So collectively, as a group of people who know what our value and truth is, it's up to us now to ask the questions as to why are we not included. So I yield back to President Kearney to close it out as we move forward. And you have now been empowered by the African American Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you all very, very much. Really appreciate the strong words from our chairman. Thank you to Jordan for handling the back office and getting everybody coordinated and signed up. We had a ton of people. We're also panelists. No, you're not getting rid of us because we've got a ton of questions and we're going to send those out. And so maybe you can digest them and send replies to them when you get a chance, or somebody on your team. Warren, Ken, Andy, and of course, Kristen, really thank you for all of your time. Want to thank the participants. And please follow us at african-americanchamber.com. Follow us on social media. Jordan has been kind enough to list all of that information in the chat, so you can reach out to us there if you want to do it. I've got to tell you all, this has been such a big success that maybe in a few months, maybe 6 months, we could do this again, because we've got people who didn't get in, who want to get in, and the questions are still, as you can see on the screen, are still coming in. So there's a lot of interest in this topic. Thank you all very much. Jordan, would you close us out and tell people how to follow up?
Sure, thank you. Today was an amazing session, and as Eric said, a lot of people did not get in, so we definitely will have to bring this back. Please reach out to me at the African American Chamber. I can be reached at Jordan, spelled JOURDAN, at african-americanchamber.com. I've also sent it to you in your chat. There's a survey form that I sent you a link for. Fill it out. Give us some feedback. And as we bring this back again, we can bring it back greater and better for you guys. Great things are happening at the African American Chamber, and it's all made possible by all the individuals on our team and our board of directors. I thank you guys for being here with us today. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.